groups in advancing the cause of social justice in Texas. This year's winner of the Social Justice Patriot Award goes to an individual who is committed as an advocate and tireless worker. She is someone who energizes community members and educators to become involved in their schools. She focuses a lot of her energy on organizing to get more people to vote in school board elections. She is also involved in holding family reading circles every month, where 276 parents and children learn to read together. Her local president, Norma de la Rosa, had this to say about Jena. Jena's acknowledged and time spent on social justice issues has been absolutely invaluable to not only EPTA, but the community where it matters most. Low-income, second-language learners who have long been neglected by a system that has not ensured that every child gets a quality and equitable education. Please help me welcome a true social justice patriot, Jena Camp, from the El Paso City.
Well, I know Lily said don't be too humble, but nobody's ever told me I was too humble, so I am very humble today. I want to thank all the fighters for social justice in this room. We each do it every day in our classrooms and in the lunchroom and in security and in maintenance and driving up bus. We each do our part. When I started working 8 years ago in public schools, I realized that I had to do something besides just close the door and teach. I actually went to therapy over what I was feeling and seeing myself doing and becoming. I couldn't just close the door and teach. You know what the therapist said? Just close the door and teach. Well, we no longer have that option. We are connected in infinite ways by the things we do in that classroom and the things we don't do and the things we can't do because of the parameters of our job description. We have to be more than the person who is the conduit for the SEs and the stars and the tics and the ticks and the nervous tacs. So we need to really think about our impact and what legacy as human beings we're leaving, I think. And I am going to go back to my origins in anthropology, which I was studying for many years and ended up never practicing except as a community-based educator for many years. And one of the things I want to do today is share some artifacts from the work that many, many hundreds, maybe thousands by now, of people in El Paso with great support from NEA, TSTA, and EPTA leadership, who were present from the beginning of the social justice work that formed our task force in January 2013. I need to acknowledge and thank Norma de la Rosa, Lily Estes Garcia, who was there, and Rocio Inclán, who helped us with the guiding questions in the forum, and all the many people sitting here today who were there and helped us bring off this amazing group of 400 people from all over the country, from all over the El Paso area 3 years ago in January. What do you do with that energy? Well, a lot of people had their photo ops and went home. There was a group of parents that met as parents. Some of us were educators, but we met as parents. And we decided to come back and meet again. We came to the second day. We participated in a session. I want to read you a little bit of what came out of that session so you'll know what it looks like in El Paso to do this work as we're doing it. But so you'll also think about how in my community I can do this work given the differences. You know, my community isn't El Paso. You'll be thinking, I hope, as I read through some of what we came up with. What you, with your history and culture and economy and polity, can start putting together where you live and work. And I know some of you have already done this, but here's our story. Thanks to the support of this organization and guidance and much hard work and many meetings in the office locally, there was a forum for social justice at Bowie High School on January 18th to 19th, 2013. It convened over 400 educator advocates, parents, and students to organize for equitable, community-based, educator-led, student-centered, and public education. English language learners, students with special needs, and students living in poverty are labeled subpopulations in government speak, but they are our community majority. Since corporate state law began privatizing public education, college remediation is up, graduation rates down, school-to-prison pipelines are thriving, and stress-related disorders among students and educators are through the roof. Toxic testing, as Lily has pointed out many times, has not prepared students for work, study, and life. Instead, it has spawned a surreal mix of fraud, cheating scandals, and corrosive practices nationwide, locally, and globally. To fight for equity in education, 16 people from that forum decided to come back in February of 2013 and start monthly meetings as a social justice and education task force. These were the priorities that came out of that first day that we're still working on, because none of this comes easily or quickly. The most important priority of the 9, and I'm only going to read the 3 most important. The one everybody unanimously said this has to be our focus here now in El Paso, is to have deep learning based on children's and communities' needs, not state-dictated program needs. To have multilingual or multicultural learning, not just English or English-Spanish bilingual. To have smaller class size and more individual attention. To stop punitive assessment. To stop stressing students with so much emphasis and time on state and district mandated tests. To limit time on tests. And here are the other 2 priorities. To have two-way, creative, all-inclusive communication circles, including struggling students, including parents in the classroom, not just for career day. Parent involvement and leadership as volunteer resource for improving schools, and parent participation in schools' campus improvement plans. Serious involvement, don't just bring the brownies. We also had another key point, and I think this is the last one I'm going to read because, well, you can talk to me about the whole thing if you love transcripts. But the last one is that, especially in our community, for English language learners, immigrants, students with special needs, and Mexican American students in general, we must put an end to discrimination in how services are provided. Priority is equity and inclusivity. That means equitable involvement of these children in enrichment programs such as college prep and extracurricular activities, sports, arts, clubs. Our status quo observations are as follows. No follow-through on complaints or needs assessments. No investigation of files or cume folders. No respect for parents, time, money, or intelligence. And poor, unidirectional, top-down communication. And lastly, and most importantly, what we found that we agreed on was that you can predict outcomes for the students in our district based on zip code, skin color, and parents' country of origin, including language. We felt that to tackle this, we needed to organize a series of empowerment workshops, run parent surveys, and which are now including get out the vote surveys, and again, participate in the feeder patterns most impacted, including Bowie, and the one where I teach, Jefferson, and El Paso High south of the mountain. Participants agreed to invite neighbors, friends, co-workers, and family to help end the disparity between the promise of public schooling and the reality for too many of our children who do not graduate ready for college or career, much less for life, with knowledge that affirms their identities as whole human beings. To give collective voice to the concerns, goals, and vision we have in common. We are united in love and respect to transform our public schools into community spaces with a just and equitable education for all children, a pedagogy that respects and draws upon the diversity of our community's cultural heritages, and spaces within every public school for the full, active, and creative participation of a community no longer marginalized politically because of limited access either to economic resources or language. As a result of this work, as they said, hundreds of families have been involved. I wouldn't say I did a reading circle with hundreds of families, it's more like tens. But we have co-learning groups, we have empowerment workshops, we've organized something called In La Hecha a la Quim Theater. And we are doing those plays spontaneously, agitprop plays, to get people out to vote and think about the issues for this school board election. And that is something that is a lot of fun, so we call those play shops instead of workshops. So we have some of those plays here if you'd like to read some of them. Maybe we can put one on at the party if somebody wants to do Reader's Theater with me. We have them in both languages. Finally, I want to conclude with some things that are not just artifacts and stories of organizing. I want to conclude with personal experience that drove me to do something outside that closed door when I teach. The first wake-up call is dedicated to another Julio. This Julio was at El Paso High, where my son attends now. This Julio was my student. So, this Julio was in an English lesson on comparatives the last time I saw him. He was taller than Antonio, but younger than Ruby, in our last lesson of English. And I wrote the poem, instead of saying Julio, I wrote it Wholio. Would you have been? Would you have kept on hiding behind that no mis risa renegada? High on drugs, low on life. What kind of shit did those Chihuahua park sharks cut into your consciousness so unbecoming on all that big, beauteous boy body? Pa nada. You cried out in class, mi familia no me quiere, not one or two times, but again and again, so we would hear your pain. Your eyes rolled back. No puedo ver nada. Your 3-day smell negado by your guardians who did not guard you in the end from your phantoms or enemigos de veras. Artistas asesinos. I would have preferred to see you emerge from that shell of macho fear, a true artista, true to that self you never got to know or be, that ser que nunca llegó a ver, que ahora por siempre, por cierto, nunca no puedes ver nada. The feeling I had after Julio was found hung in Juarez alongside another 14-year-old, and the horror I felt at the fact that our school did not bother to even say anything over the intercom about his passing. Has helped me realize when we say all children, we must really mean all children. And I want to read you a hopeful response that came from the organizing of the last 2.5 years. A mother of a special needs child at that same school, who is an active member of our group, Loren Ituarte, wrote an I am, yo soy poem, and I beg your indulgence to hear it's in Spanish. This is the voice I wish he had heard. Yo soy una mujer con amor por la tierra. Soy una madre con amor por sus hijos. Yo pienso que debemos involucrarnos todos. Yo escucho la voz de los discriminados, de los desposeídos. Yo veo las injusticias. Yo deseo justicia. Yo pienso que soy tierra y madre de todos los niños. Yo pretendo que sean felices. Yo siento el sentir de todos. Yo toco su dolor. Me preocupo por el futuro de todos los niños. Me preocupo por lo que no puedo hacer ni cambiar. Yo soy tierra y madre de todos los niños. Yo entiendo que con voluntad y amor todo es posible. Yo digo que sí podemos. Yo sueño con un mundo mejor. Yo trato de poner mi granito de arena porque yo soy tierra y madre de todos los niños. Finally, I want to end, again with your indulgence, with a poem that I wrote this last winter, just before a senator's committee on education, in which Norma and I participate sometimes. And it was right before a presentation of a group called Creed, which in one of our plays is called Greed. And you can make the connection there. Several local billionaires and those folks in Alec and the Wings. And this is what I wrote before this presentation because I knew I was going to say something inappropriate if I didn't write it out first. And I did keep my mouth shut. And I only had to sadly make a few corrections to the poem after hearing his presentation. And this is what I want to leave you with. It's a metaphor for me, for organizing. What I like about this shirt, it requires more care to do than undo. This morning I looped stubborn frog clasps around all the wrong buttons, all the way down. And then noticed unevenness warming in my middle. I painstakingly on and rebuttoned, requisite care reasserted, mindful of choices that benefit few, costing many. I reached, redid the last button. Velcro and zipper, fast mandates at hand, warming a few ample middles, paltry thought given to the shirtless, no care. Motives, well-dressed, fastened justifications, analytic technologic clothes, private missions. Skew you corporate calculi, drive data decisions, stakeholder dialogues, process away, true words, unheard, unspoken, unbidden. Conclusions foregone and paid in advance, reductionist PowerPoints brightly to futures, contrived convenience. Spreadsheeted, posted, communities pinned to plans done up crooked, all the way down. Oblivions drift in settling dust. Bottom lines disappear middles. Vacuous, noisy, creative destructions. Hang us uneven. What I like about this shirt, I have to pay attention. Thank you.